Hello all, and welcome to this lesson where I will teach you how to use the software OBS Studio. But before I get into the technical bits, let's answer the question, what is OBS Studio? OBS stands for Open Broadcaster Software. The open simply refers to it being free to use, and a broadcaster software is a tool used to stream or record. Streaming is a live presentation style which we will not focus on, so let's look only at the recording portion of this program for today. Recording will capture what's on your computer screen, a video camera of you, or even both at the same time. I must warn that there is currently an issue in that OBS is not recognized by all school districts. Your school computer may not allow you to download the program. What's more likely is that your school has safety features that block any recording, designed to protect student information that may be on your screen. If at all possible, please use a home computer for this program. So, you're raring to go and ready to start learning how to record. First, let's go over how to get the program. Like I said earlier, this is an open program and will be free. For the first step, go to the website obsproject.com. The website should look like this. From here, it is just a few simple button presses. Select your operating system. This will be Windows for most computers and Mac OS for Apple computers. I have Windows, so I will select Windows. Clicking this button will activate the installer, which should pop up on screen. Go along with the steps it gives you and enable a desktop shortcut if prompted. I cannot record this portion of the lesson because I am already using OBS, but it is a linear process and you should be able to manage. Once the program is fully installed, you should see this icon on your desktop. Clicking on the icon opens up the program immediately. If you don't see it anywhere still, look for it under a hidden icons portion of your taskbar. Now the program is open and it seems overwhelming at first, so let's break it down into smaller pieces as I walk you through how I would create an example recording. This box down here is for scenes. A scene is the larger scale term for what you are currently recording. The large rectangle in the center of the program shows what your scene looks like. There should be a default scene already in the program. To make another scene, press the plus sign inside the Scenes box. There will be a pop-up to name it, and you can name it whatever you would like. I will be naming mine Guided Lessons. To choose which scene you currently have selected, simply click it once and a blue box will indicate that you are in that scene. Clicking away from the scenes will have the box turn gray, but don't worry, you are still in that scene. You may have noticed by now that even though the rectangle in the center is representing our scene, it is still blank. So why is that? This transitions into the next portion of OBS, sources. Sources are the elements that make up a scene. Sources can include anything picked up by your microphone, what's currently happening on your screen, a video camera feed, and a couple of other things too. Multiple sources can be placed in one scene and all be recorded together. Sources are the components of a scene. The Sources box is adjacent to the Scenes box. I will demonstrate how to use it by adding a source to my Guided Lessons scene. Click on the plus sign in the Sources box. I am presented with all of these options, and for now, I will select Image. Anytime you insert a new source, you will receive two pop-up boxes. The first one will always look like this. This box asks whether you would like to make a new source or use one that you've made before. Most of the time, you will be making a new source and should just click OK on this pop-up. The pop-up after this is specific to the new source you're adding. For the image source, you will be prompted to browse your computer and insert the picture you want. Any picture from your computer will work fine for images. Let's say I want to show my students measurement conversions so that they can have a quick reference. I will find the appropriate file in my computer and select it. Hit OK again to go through with the action. You should now have an image floating around in this black space, in your scene. Clicking on it will reveal a red outline. From here, you can drag the picture around or resize it by dragging the squares. If you drag the picture too close to the edge of the scene, you will notice it turning into a gray striped zone beyond the scene. This indicates to you that part of your image is not being recorded, as it exits the bounds of the scene. For now, I don't want this to be the focus, so I'll place it in a corner. To preview what the scene will look like, you can click either of the large gray sidebars to deselect the image and remove the red box tool. If you want to reselect it, you can mouse over it, see a blue outline, and click on it to select it again. Okay, now let's add another source to this scene. Click on the Add Source button again. This time, select the source labeled Display Capture. Click OK for both pop-up boxes. The Display Capture source captures everything on your monitor in live time. As you can see, this means it will have moving parts to it. Right now, the capture is showing OBS and it looks a bit strange, but as soon as you minimize OBS, it will continue to look at what is on your screen and appear normal. The movement can be a little disorienting at first, but don't worry, you can reposition it around exactly like the still image. Clicking on it will give the same red box, which you can use to resize and move the display capture as you like. This is going to be the focus of the guided lesson I plan to record with this scene, so I want it to take up the whole space of the scene. You'll notice that as you resize it, the source will snap to corners and edges, which is good. But in doing this, we've run into another problem. Our image has been covered up by the display capture. This is a good opportunity to teach you about layering. If we focus back just to the sources box, we can see that the sources are organized in a list. The order of this list is important. Because our display capture is on top of the image in our list, it will also be on top of our image in this scene. This can be fixed by selecting and dragging the image above the display capture in the list. As you can see, the image is now visible in the scene because it is over top of the display capture. The next source that I'm going to add is a video capture source. This source takes a camera attached to your computer and puts the video into the scene. This is me. Hello everybody. I'm going to put myself in the bottom left corner here. For this particular scene, I'm going to make myself small so that the focus remains on the display capture. If you are giving a lecture or know that you teach better with the assistance of hand motions and gestures, you may want to make yourself a little larger so that you are more visible. You've probably noticed by now that my voice isn't syncing up with my face. That's for two reasons. One is that I'm talking through a voiceover in my editing software, which will be covered next week. But the second and more important reason is that I can't talk yet. Your microphone and your camera are separate devices and they each need their own source. Let's add an audio input capture. When this pops up, make sure that the right microphone is selected, but default will usually already be selected for you. And as soon as I add this source... Oh, thank goodness I can finally talk now. Thank you, voiceover me. No problem, smaller me. So, we have these four sources and the scene is starting to look good now. But let's say, for the sake of practice, that I want to replace my display capture with something else. The first step is to delete the display capture. This can be done by selecting the source you wish to remove and then selecting the minus sign. Now I'm going to add the window capture source. Before I add this source, I need to have a window open. I'm going to choose my internet browser. The specialized box for the Windows capture source will prompt you to select which window to capture, which will appear here. What this means is that it will isolate a certain program or window that you have. I'm going to select Google Chrome, where I have my script for this lesson open. Once you've added the window capture, remember to put it in the right position on the list so that we see everything that we want to see. Another nice part of the window capture is that it gives a yellow outline around what is being recorded. The scene is finally completed and all of the hard work has already been done, but there are just a few simple steps left. Recording puts some strain on your computer and optimizing it to your needs can be a headache. Lucky for us, OBS has a very convenient auto configuration wizard. Click Tools by the top of the program and then click on Auto Configuration Wizard. Select the bubble that says Optimized just for recording, I will not be streaming. From here, hit Next, Next again, and finally apply settings. That will handle everything for you, and your computer should run fine while recording. The other loose end to tie up is where you save your recordings to. The end product is going to be a video file, but it's important that you can actually find it. You'll have to go to Settings for this. From here, click on the Output tab. Just focus on the recording portion since we are not streaming. In the section under Recording Path, click Browse and select the folder that you would like your recordings to go to. From here on out, it is super simple. Once you're confident in your scene setup, just hit Start Recording. You can minimize OBS to your taskbar and it will still be recording. Teach your lesson or run your lab, come back to OBS once you're finished, and hit Stop Recording. This is enough to cover the basic 3-step process of recording. Make a scene, slap some sources into it, and hit the Start Recording button. Make a scene, slap some sources into it, and hit the Start Recording button. Make a scene, slap some sources into it, and hit the Start Recording button. I will demonstrate an example of recording in real time, just to be clear. Small me, take it away. Alright, so I'm going to be showing you the first person's perspective of what it's like to record. So this is what I'm seeing now, and I know, looking ahead of time on what I want to record, that I want to show you more things than just my one window capture. So I'm going to change that again. I know I just put it in, but I do need to delete this window capture. And instead, and what you will most commonly use, and I would recommend that for a large majority of circumstances, is just implementing the display capture, right? Remembering to put it in the right order so that I can see everything I want to see. And now, when I'm ready, I can just hit the Start Recording button and minimize the program. So it's minimized, you don't see it anymore, and it's a little bit hard to imagine, but you have to remember that you have the camera of yourself in the bottom left here, or I do at least, and an image here, so it might not show everything you want on screen. What I have open right now is my script for the program, right, for this lesson. You might not have the whole thing scripted out, and I wouldn't under most circumstances. I'm not talking under a script right now, for example. And if you want to switch around, go to different tabs, you can do that just fine. Let's say I wanted to revisit the installation portion of the video, I could do that just fine. And any other program on my computer would handle well under the display capture as well. Now, let's say that was the entirety of my lesson, all 1 minute of it, right? I open this back up and I hit the Stop Recording button. Now, I've created a video file, and remember we went and selected where we wanted to store that. Where I store mine is under the folder titled YouTube. Now my file management is a little bit embarrassing. I have lots of files from OBS here, right? Because I've been recording for a bit now. But you should see it's date and time stamped as a default. You can find this. This is the video. Minimize the program I just made. So it's minimized. You don't see it anymore. And it's a little bit hard to imagine, but you have to remember that camera and picture are here over top of what you saw. Camera of yourself and in the bottom left here, microphone is coming through just fine, and an image here. So it might not show. I'm going to pause it so I don't talk over my own video of myself here. You can see everything just fine. And if you look at the beginning and end, you'll notice that you can still see OBS on the program because you hit the Start Recording button and then minimized it. That shouldn't be a problem at all. We'll handle that next week in the video editor. You can just trim off the ends, right, because it's on the at the end too. But as you can see, this is how it will look once you finish recording. That was the general process of recording. However, I left in a few commonly seen mistakes that should be covered. The first and most abrasive mistake is when I was talking at the same time as the video. This might work in a classroom setting because you and the video are speaking from a different location, and the student can identify the sounds independently. When trying the same thing through technology, it doesn't always translate well. This is because the video and your voice will both be coming out of the same set of speakers. This makes it hard for students to make sense of either. As a general rule of thumb, try not to clutter the audio. This applies to showing a video and talking at the same time, but it also can apply to video calls with coworkers. The other mistake I made was covering up part of my screen with my webcam. In reviewing the video I made, we can notice that some of the text on screen has been covered up by my face. I know that you want your students to be able to see you well, but it is also important that they can see what you're trying to show them on screen. You have all the fundamentals down, but you may have noticed that I skipped over a portion of the program, the audio mixer. There are two main uses for the audio mixer. It can control how loud your sounds are, or mute sound sources entirely. Let's start with the mute function. Simply click the speakerphone icon next to the specific source. A red icon and X means that it is muted. The volume control is not quite as simple as it first appears. It is a sliding bar, but it does not represent percentage. To clarify, the slider does not go from 0% to 100%. Instead, the right side of the bar is at full volume, and sliding to the left subtracts units of sound. The current amount removed can be seen here. Realistically, it's not incredibly important to know the specific units. You can just look at the jumping green bar of sound to get to what you want. What you want to aim for is in the green zone, somewhere around the middle of the entire bar. Too far on the right and the audio gets a bit messy, and too far on the left and it's too hard to hear. Let me create a new scene so that I can demonstrate another problem you might run into. Before even putting anything into this new scene, it's possible that OBS will communicate with your computer and put your microphone in there for you, which can be seen here. Let's say you continue to place in an audio input source attached to the microphone. When both of these are unmuted, you can see that they move exactly the same. This is a problem and will create an echo in your recording. Simply mute one of the two and you will be good to go. I have already given you a surplus of information, but the program has more to offer. I could go on and talk about the virtues of custom hotkeys, scene switching, and more, but it will likely not be too relevant. And like I said, the contents of this video are sufficient to record a lesson. Many of the extra complicated processes can be handled in a video editor too, where you can take things a bit slower. As long as you've taken away that you need to make a scene, slap some sources into it, and hit that start recording button, all is well. Thank you for watching. I hope this video lesson has been a help to you, and I hope to see you next week as well.